Okay. Hello, Internet. Welcome to episode 32 of the Braindrizzle podcast. Again, no guest this week, and just us, but you guys don't seem to mind too much. So,
Yep.
you're stuck with us.
We're gonna tie you to a chair, prop your eyes open, and make you listen to us for about a half hour or so.
Why do they need their eyes open to listen to us?
Because magnets, that's why.
Okay, we're already off to a terrible start, so let's jump right into it.
Terrible or awesome?
Terrible. I have 3 stories this week, and none of them are really biology.
What?
I know, it's craziness. Well, the first one is kind of biology. Kind of biology. It's about,
Cheater.
it's about exoplanet habitability.
Exoplanet habitability. So, like plants on Mars?
Yeah, exoplanet.
Exoplanet.
Yes.
Okay. So, anything life-related on Mars, up to and including plants.
No, about, like, extrasolar planets. Elsewhere in the universe.
Okay, then life on space Mars, up to including plants.
Yes, Space Mars. I mean, this was specifically about moons orbiting planets and whether those would be habitable. Because, gas giants can have pretty large moons. So, there's actually a Goldilocks zone around planets that a moon would have to be in to be habitable.
Yeah, I still want to get myself a mantis duck, an eyeless mantis duck from Titan, because I'm just assuming they exist.
Yeah. But so it was interesting because basically, if a moon is too close to a large planet, then tidal heating makes it too hot. But if it's too far away, the moon is outside the planet's magnetic field, and then it gets blasted with radiation.
Bzzz. I'm assuming that's what that sounds like.
So basically, for a moon to be habitable, the planet has to be in the Goldilocks zone, and then the moon has to be a certain...
Betty! Don't walk on my keyboard. Oh my god, am I gonna have to put you out of the room?
We're definitely leaving this in.
Okay, Okay, everything's okay. He didn't hit the keyboard. No, you are not gonna walk on this laptop. Okay, continue.
That's pretty much it. I think that's the best possible way to end the story. Is your cat walking on the keyboard.
Almost walking on the keyboard.
Almost.
Alright. Next!
Right. So, you know that if there's a physics story on Brainstorm, 9 times out of 10 it's going to be about fusion.
About feuding?
Fusion.
Fusion. Oh, okay. So, jazz fusion? Or... fusion?
Womp, womp, womp. There's an article in from Physor about how close we are to fusion, but not really. Sort of describes a potential fusion reactor that they're testing at a bunch of institutions where they should shoot like 200 lasers at a capsule full of deuterium and tritium.
200 lasers.
Actually,
Tritium, that's that thing in that was in Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, but the fusion reactor they describe is pretty much exactly how it is in the Spider-Man movie.
Oh my god! That is the best news ever.
Yeah, it's literally like lasers hitting a capsule of tritium and deuterium. Which is basically what it was in Spider-Man.
That is nuts.
So that movie was somewhat accurate, except for like the web thing. So
they should get the Nobel Prize.
I don't think so.
Okay, they were clearly ripped off by these scientists.
I'm assuming that these kind of experiments, or at least the plans for them, were going on before Spider-Man 2 came out.
Spoiled sport.
But I actually love because, like, where they do this is called the Ignition Laboratory, which just sounds awesome.
Yeah, it does.
Like, I'm a scientist at the Ignition Laboratory.
Bum, bum, bum!
So they're getting pretty close to self-sustaining, sort of energy-profitable fusion. The problem is that the capsule is, like, not perfectly round, so some places collapse sooner than others, and it sort of just, like, prevents it from self-sustaining.
Got it. Yeah, well, they should get to work on that.
I'm pretty sure they are.
Cause I need my spider backpack to, carry me all over the place, just like in Invader Zim. So I can go to the library and shit in style.
What?
Invader Zim, he has this, like, backpack thingy that is fused to his back, and out of it comes, like, these big mechanical arms that can carry him faster than he can run. And help him, actually deal with obstacles. He, gets into this fight with the security guard, with it, and it's an awesome battle. There's also, zombie shoplifters. It's weird. FBI Warning of Doom is the name of the episode. Find it, watch it, love it.
Okay. Well, what does it have to do with fusion power?
In Spider-Man, Doc Ock had a similar setup.
Right, to control the magnetic field.
Yeah.
But I don't think that would work in the real world.
I am Zim.
I'm sorry. am I crushing your dreams right now?
Pissing all over my ponies and rainbows, man.
Oh, that's a terrible image.
That's because you're a terrible person.
Well, I knew this. But, you know. Actually, funny story.
Mm-hmm.
This was almost planned, but speaking of robots, my last article is sort of an opinion piece from Science Daily, where Bill Gates compares the current state of robotics to personal computing in the 1970s.
So we will have personal robots within the next 20 years.
He estimates that by 2025, most people will have a robot in the home of some kind.
Oh, less than 20 years. 13 years. 12 years.
So they point to certain specific robots. Like apparently somewhere, someone has developed a Roomba, but for cleaning windows.
That is awesome. Slugbot.
It's called a Quirl.
A what?
A Quirl.
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 Why call it that?
I don't know. It's like a Roomba, but it literally just sticks to the glass and can wash it.
Wow.
I know, right?
So Windex will be a thing for Luddites and poor people.
Well, you might need to like fill Quirl with like cartridges. I don't know.
Brought to you by the Sharper Image.
Apparently, it's at the Fraunhofer Institute for Manufacturing Engineering and Automation in Stuttgart, which I think is in Germany. And it's actually got some actual uses, because they could like sit like a swarm of these on a bunch of solar panels to keep them clean, because so their maximum effectiveness.
Oh, that's cool.
And apparently, they don't have a picture of this, because I think it would be terrifying. But there's a robot called James, and it's apparently a robot version of the Hand Butler from the Addams Family.
Oh, Thing?
Yeah.
Dude, I want one.
I know. I don't know why there's not a picture of it.
Yeah, seriously, they're fucking up. They obviously don't know what the people want. Damn evil corporation sounding website.
Yeah, because that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But they do have a picture of a robot called Justin, and so a central focus of this article is a thing called the European Network of Robotic Research, which is like a multi-institutional network of robotics researchers.
Okay, let me get this straight. They don't show us the Coral, which is a robot that'll clean windows for you like the motherfucking Jetsons. And they don't show us Thing. They don't show us Thing from the Addams Family, something that people will immediately be delighted by. Instead, they show us Justin.
No, Justin is a humanoid robot. It's like a humanoid-ish. It's basically just a torso and arms, and it's making coffee.
Still not as cool as the Thing.
So basically, 13 years, robot butlers is the message of this article, basically.
Yeah, that's good, but I still question I still question humanity if they prefer Justin over Thing.
There's several specific robots. There's Kuka, which is a robot arm, but it's really lightweight, but it's still pretty powerful. It's 13 kilograms, but it can also lift its own worth of weight. And so there's a few specific examples of robots, and also there's a mention of Asimov, so I'm immediately in love with this article. It literally says in the article, robots that work with and around humans will need to obey Asimov's laws of robotics. So legitimate robotics researchers are working on that.
Yeah, I think this is just a group of, extreme fanboys.
No, this is legit shit.
Yeah, but they also happen to be also fanboys who are building Asimov's world for real.
You would think, because fucking Asimov coined the term robotics.
And these people got into the field of robotics because they're Asimov fans, and now they're...
I know, but that's awesome. I mean, he didn't coin robots, but he coined robotics, and now that is a real discipline in engineering. That's the coolest shit ever.
Everything smells like Cat's Cradle all of a sudden.
What?
Dude, you seriously need to read that book.
I need to read a lot of things.
Yeah, you do.
As do you.
Fine. Fair enough.
So I just think it's robots, it's Asimov, there's apparently robot hands. That got weird. So I'm gonna stop here.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, what do you got?
Okay, what I got. They studied Einstein's brain some more.
As you do.
Yeah, and they're thinking that what might be behind his brilliance is the fact that his left and right hemispheres were more connected to each other than normal. Because
yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just down the middle. It's called the corpus callosum.
Callosum?
Yeah.
Callosum.
Callosum. I've only ever seen these words on paper. You're the only person I get to talk to about them.
That's because I don't have a life. So.
Yeah. Okay, the corpus callosum. This guy named Folk, another guy named Man, and
together they are Folk Man?
No, men, not man. They're Folk men. Okay, so the Folk men, along with Weibo Chen. I'm not even gonna try. I don't know how to pronounce.
Et al. That's what. And when you're citing a journal and it's a bunch of people, you name the first three and then et al. To say there's other people.
Okay, but yeah. So the Folkmen. A lot of these people were from China, and they came up with actually a new technique for examining Einstein's brain. Okay, the first thing they did was detail Einstein's corpus callosum, and they tried to see where the largest bundles of fibers were.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, the fibers in front, like, activate during hand movement, and the fibers in back activate during, impressive thinking.
Can I take a wild guess where the bundles were?
I suppose, but they actually don't say in the article, so I guess it's supposed to be obvious.
Well, what the fuck? Who wrote this shit? What site is this on?
This is on Science Daily, so they don't actually, I don't think they actually list the author. So, the author is protected behind anonymity, so I guess they get to, be...
Shitty writers?
Oh, wait, no, they do say. Basically, he had more extensive connections between like, parts of his cerebral hemispheres.
Right, okay, that makes
and
sense.
They found where the thickest connections were. Where the thickest connections were was more nerve fibers, obviously. And they compared that with the brains of 15 elderly men and, like, 52 dudes who were Einstein's age when he, like, started, coming up with all the awesome crap when he was 26 years old. So basically they compared his brain to a bunch of 26-year-olds and found that he had, like, way more extensive connections. So, well...
So Einstein was just fucking, like, the best. Like, no, there's not gonna be another Einstein, because he was just, like, fucking a mutant. He was Professor Xavier, is what you're saying.
Maybe. Except he could walk.
Well, yeah. So could Xavier, until an accident.
But yeah, when they were researching... It's funny, there's actually this line in this article that says, the research of Einstein's corpus callosum was initiated by men.
Is it spelled just M-E-N, or is it like 2 N's or something, or is it just men?
Just M-E-N.
That's pretty confusing. That must get real confusing.
It was initiated by men. With bitchin' mustaches.
He did have quite the bitchin' mustache.
Yes, he did. And he lived in an era that could be easily called steampunk.
Maybe. Yeah.
When he was doing all his brilliant stuff. 26-year-old savant and living in 1900s Europe around horse carriages and probably owned a top hat.
He probably did.
It's just such an unbelievably sexy image. I'm sorry, it just is.
It's funny on many levels.
Steampunk Einstein!
Yeah, I'm sure that's out there.
I'm sure that's the name of this episode.
Oh, god, there it is, and now I have to follow. Now I have to fucking track down an image of Steampunk. I'm sure there's, like, multiple images of Steampunk Einstein, but I still have to find it.
Oh, dude, that sounds like the funnest thing in the world, and you're complaining? You get to look at steampunk all day.
Not all day, for, like, a minute, searching on Google.
Oh, that must be so terrible.
Well, it's a hard job, but someone's gotta do it, Jack.
Yep, you're really taking one for the team.
All you have to do is edit this shit.
Shut up. Okay.
What else you got?
You know what? I'm just not even going to edit this episode. I'm just going to, put the two...
I realized that as soon as I said that. I'm like, you're not touching this.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to put your half of the conversation in front of my half of the conversation, have the audience listen through and guess what we were talking about.
That would be the worst thing ever.
It would be. We'll find out how it goes, though.
Oh, god damn.
Alright. So, My second story is me fucking with the atheists again.
As you're wont to do.
Alright, so, the groups like AA, Addicts Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous,
Mm-hmm.
Al-Anon and stuff like that. A lot of times they get a whole bunch of criticism because, they kind of push God. They tell people that you can't get a hold of addiction without believing in a higher power. And a lot of people are just like, oh, that's just evangelism. That's stupid. Why would that even matter? Well, it turns out it actually makes a huge difference. These guys in Switzerland, this guy named Gmail and his colleagues. So apparently a dragon rider from Switzerland decided to do a scientific survey about substance use and misuse. And he went through the army registry thing or whatever and found a bunch of people to survey, because in Switzerland everybody is part of the army.
Right.
Yeah, Army Recruitment Center was not a... For some reason I was thinking it was like a base, but no, it's Recruitment Center. Well, I read it and then I immediately forgot what I read, because that's what I do. That's why...
It's part of your charm?
Yeah, it's part of my charm. Because if I just skim through something once, I have the craziest ideas, and it's lovable and endearing.
Quality?
Yeah. Yeah. People love it when I say stupid shit.
Well, it's pretty much why this show gets watched. Is us saying really either fucked up and or stupid shit.
I know, it's just like... I know, I can't remember how many times you said to me, do you even read the articles? God damn it, Jack, read your articles. Yep. That's why our show's awesome.
Yeah.
You have all these Syrian science shows, and then you have us.
Yeah. That's us.
I love it. I goddamn love it. Anyway, so back to our dragon rider scientist. Basically, he went out and he gathered up 387 questionnaires. We'll just say over 5,000. Over 5,000 questionnaires. And he found out that, there's he divided into 5 groups. The religious who believed in God and went to church, the spiritual who believed in a higher power but did not practice any religion, and the people who didn't know whether or not to believe in God, then the agnostics, and then the atheists. So they found out that the religious ones, there were 543 of them, over 500 of them were religious, and 30% smoked cigarettes daily, 20% smoked pot more than once a week, and less than 1% had ever done ecstasy or cocaine in the past year.
Yeah.
And among the 1,650, over 15,000 atheists, 51% smoked cigarettes, 36% smoked pot more than once a week, 6% had consumed ecstasy, and 5% cocaine in the past year. Those are the ones who admitted it.
Yeah.
And then the 3 groups that laid between, they scored somewhere in between. So it turns out that belief in a higher power, or belief in God, actually does affect how much drugs you do.
Now, I'm going to step in here, because I am an atheist and I am a scientist. Well, not a scientist. I am a science-y person.
You're a science otaku.
Yes, I'm basically. I'm a scientist in training. I don't necessarily think you could apply this to the general population. Because, one, notice that in that country, the religious are the major minority. 10%.
True.
And there is still some cigarette and pot smoking in them. So I think it's a very different culture than Alcoholics Anonymous and stuff in America.
But still, this is evidence that that belief in having religion makes it easier to stay off the sauce. And something that I noticed when I went to that atheist convention, so many people drinking.
Well, yeah, that's true. As someone who's also been to a convention, it's like a lot of drinking.
Like, seriously, they're drunk the whole time. You know, it's like, I actually felt kind of sorry for the speakers because they're having to convey a message to a bunch of people who were likely hungover.
Most of the, like, I was in the bar at the convention when I went to my convention, and it was a small convention. I saw like every speaker in the bar.
Yeah, drinking.
Yeah.
I met every speaker in the bar also drinking. And seriously, my whole life, when they talk about peer pressure, don't let people pressure you to drink, I'd never once been pressured to drink. If somebody's just like, oh, you're not drinking, that's fine. Except when I went to that atheist convention.
Oh, well, I didn't get that, but...
Like, I bought a beer with the pizza, because, you know, beer and pizza, that's, you know, it's good. They had, like, some kind of, like, local microbrew that I wanted to try, so I was like, alright, cool. I was doing that, and then everybody else was drink after drink after drink, and somebody was just like, hey, what are you drinking? And I was just like, that's okay, I don't need anything. What are you drinking? That's the only place I'd ever been pressured to drink in my life. I just wanted a beer with my pizza.
Mm.
Next thing I know, I get drunk.
Yeah.
Well, drunk for me, because I actually have because I don't have, like, the best tolerance, I don't think. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, that's the only place I've ever been pressured to drink. It was weird. Bunch of grown-ass people.
Yeah, well...
Yeah.
I would be interested to see if this, like, experiment was repeated in North America, if there would be similar numbers. Because in North America, the religious would be the majority, and might there be more drug use in them just because there are more people.
Well, it's weird. It's just like there's a lot of religion here, but the, like, addiction and drug use is pretty widespread, actually.
That's what I'm saying. So I think this kind of experiment would be far less conclusive in the States than it was in Sweden.
Yeah, that's a good point. But we have a lot of factors that fuel drug use within this nation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like a lot of social factors that you have to take into account. Which, you know, is probably the case in Switzerland also. So, I mean, I guess it'd be very, very hard to get a cut and dry answer, but there could be strong evidence that religion does legitimately help some people quit.
I mean, probably, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing to think about. You know, I mean, it might showcase some of the reasons, you know, why we do certain things. You know, it might tell us about, like, more of the social and psychological effects of, like, existential stress.
Maybe.
You know, it could be something along those lines.
Well, I'm just thinking, this is, like, completely out of my butthole speculation, but in countries where the religious are the minority, might they be more self-conscious to be more, like, pure or whatever?
Oh, that just depends if, it depends on whether or not they're looked down on, or just like, oh, you're religious. You know, it's because minority does not always mean having to prove that you're a good person or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I do know that, you know, here in the States, and I guess this is true up in Canada, or, you know, it could be true some places, where, a lot of places where atheists are a minority, or where, especially in the States, where, like, people face serious discrimination for being atheist or someplace, or even being pagan. Like, anything that's non-Christian, you experience, like, problems. Okay, there will be a link. I will track this down, and there will be a link to it in the description. But this was actually an account that I read. It was a small town, kind of in the South, and there was this family there. It was a mother and her son, and they were both pagan, and they had to deal with, you know, vandalism on their house. The son got beat up a lot. They had to like deal with drama because of it. Well, the son was an ROTC, and he wanted, like, what he wanted to do with his life was have a career in the military.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the ROTC rifle drill team. It's where they do all the stuff where they flip the rifles and everything. It looks really cool.
Yeah,
and those rifles are heavy. But yeah, he was on that drill team, and like apparently, I don't know if like his instructor said, yeah, go ahead or whatever, but he took his rifle home. Now, these ROTC rifles, they actually have a rod, like freaking welded to the inside of the barrel, making it impossible to even load, let alone shoot. So, I mean, this weapon was essentially a rifle.
It's a prop, basically.
Yeah, it was basically a prop. It was a rifle turned heavy baton. Like, literally, this thing was no longer a gun. It did not function as a gun. It had been totally repurposed. And he took that home to practice. And then he gets arrested for gun possession. And they put him in jail. And it was basically how it went down. It was clearly discrimination because of their religion.
Mm.
I will find the story and put it down there. Now, it's been a couple of years since I read that story, so I might have gotten some of the details off. But, you can feel free to read the real thing. It's a problem in this country. And I think sometimes we get so used to the idea of dealing with marginalization and persecution, for being a heathen, essentially, because atheists are heathens just like all the other heathens, and that we kind of forget that it might not be the same way in other countries. We assume that, well, if the religious are the minority, then they probably get the same treatment as the heathens do. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's entirely possible that nobody cares if you go to church or not.
Mm-hmm.
In Switzerland, of course, I don't know, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. And just essentially, what I'm trying to say is, it's bad to jump to conclusions, but it's very, very hard not to jump to certain conclusions.
It's also fun.
It is. it makes you feel good because you feel like you got a real beat on things.
Yeah, even when you have no idea.
Yeah, and you're making yourself look like an asshole, but you feel like a genius.
And when you record it, it's called a podcast.
And people listen to it and nod knowingly.
Yep.
Or they listen to it and feel superior.
Yeah.
Well, rightly so.
So, yeah, especially if you're listening to our podcast, because we're great.
We are awesome. We are the best.